Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something uncomfortable, something old and true. Not every smile is salvation, and not every gift is grace. We live in an age where the old witches have traded in their broomsticks for psychology degrees, glowing screens, and smooth branding. But their craft is alive and well. They do not need cauldrons now. They stir confusion with sweet words and clever favors, and their spells, they are disguised as help. But these favors come with fine print written. Let me name 6 such favors, for knowledge is often the first sword in the war against deception. Not all gifts are good. Some are wrapped in charm, tied with a ribbon of false comfort, and offered with a smile that hides fangs. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, it is easy to mistake every pleasant thing for a blessing. But the most dangerous traps are the ones we walk into willingly, mistaking bait for benevolence. The essence of evil is rarely grotesque. Evil seldom appears with horns and red eyes. Instead, it often arrives in the form of help, convenient, timely, and apparently tailored to your desires. This is the poison of the witch's favor, a gift that appears kind yet costs you more than you can afford to pay. A good gift aligns with truth, cultivates virtue, and leads you toward your higher purpose. A false gift flatters your weakness, disguises compromise as compassion, and leads you quietly away from the path of blessing. Consider the seduction of an easy way out. A person struggling with self-worth is offered constant validation. You are perfect as you are. It feels like a bomb. But what if that validation arrests growth, silences conviction, and convinces the soul it has no need for change? That is not kindness, that is a well-dressed curse. It is the equivalent of soothing a man to sleep while his house burns down. Real help may sting. It may come wrapped in challenge, confrontation, or delay. False help feels like relief but robs you of restoration. False gifts can also come in the form of opportunities that bypass preparation. The witch of convenience offers you success without the struggle. A door opens before you are ready, and instead of wisdom you rush in thinking the open door is a divine sign. But premature elevation is not promotion, it is exposure. The blessing you didn't build the character to sustain becomes the burden that breaks you. What looked like favor was sabotage dressed as acceleration. We must also beware of gifts that mirror our secret desires but feed our darker appetites. Some people crave power, affirmation, attention. The witch knows this and packages her favor accordingly. You're given a platform before you're rooted, a following before you're formed, influence before integrity. And because it came with applause, you think it's from above. But heaven doesn't always shout, it often whispers. Not every gift that makes you feel powerful is meant to empower. Some are sent to corrupt quietly, until you no longer recognize yourself. There is a terrible irony to these favors. They do not come to you with force. They require your consent. You must accept them. That's what makes them so deadly. They flatter you into surrender. You let them in, and by the time you realize the cost, something sacred has already been traded. Discernment is the ability to tell not just good from bad, but good from almost good. The witch's favors are never outright evil. They are slight detours from truth, coated in charm. And that, precisely, is what makes them so effective. Not all gifts are good. Some come to steal your future one smile at a time. Instant validation kills growth. It is a sugar-coated substitute for true affirmation, offering a hit of emotional relief while quietly sabotaging the inner work required for transformation. The allure is powerful. We live in a culture that rewards appearance over substance, volume over depth, and feeling good over being good. In this environment, validation has become a currency, and the cheaper it is, the more quickly it circulates. We are told constantly that we are enough, are perfect as we are deserving of all good things. These words feel like healing, especially to wounded souls hungry for love. But truth without context can become a lie. You are valuable, yes, but that does not mean you are finished. You are loved, certainly, but that love calls you to change. Instant validation skips the painful, necessary step of self-examination. It replaces growth with comfort and maturity with applause. The danger lies in how seductive it is. Who wouldn't want to be told that nothing needs to change, that every flaw is a feature and every impulse sacred? It's a spiritual narcotic. But just like a narcotic, it dulls the senses that were made to detect danger, pain, and conviction. Growth is not passive. It requires pressure, discomfort, and sometimes the bruising light of truth. Instant validation shields us from that discomfort, and in doing so, shields us from the process that would actually make us better. Validation in its healthiest form confirms our identity while challenging our behavior. It says, "You are more than this, so rise." But instant validation does the opposite. It affirms the struggle as the destination. If you're anxious, it says you always will be. If you're angry, it says your rage is justified. If you're lost, it romanticizes the wandering. Instead of offering a way out, it decorates the prison and calls it home. People begin to build their identities on praise that requires no effort to receive. They curate personalities that harvest likes, applause, and agreement. But when validation becomes the measure of truth, correction feels like betrayal, and so accountability dies. No one wants to be told they're wrong because they've been trained to believe that their feelings are the final word. This is how entire communities lose the ability to grow, by drowning out every uncomfortable truth with a chorus of "you're doing just fine." Even worse, instant validation can become an idol. The need to be seen, affirmed, and approved of by others can drive people to abandon convictions and silence their own conscience. They edit themselves to maintain applause, but the applause was never meant to be the compass. Real growth often happens in obscurity in moments that no one claps for. It's forged in repentance, in late-night wrestling with conscience, in choosing humility over ego. Instant validation offers the appearance of wholeness without the substance. It rushes in to affirm you prematurely, locking you in the very place you were meant to grow out of. It is not love. It is a counterfeit mercy that feeds your comfort but starves your calling. Effortless success is a trap. It looks like a gift, sounds like a miracle, and feels like a dream come true, but it bypasses the very process that gives success its meaning and weight. True success is not simply about reaching a destination. It is about who you become on the way there. When you remove the struggle, you remove the shaping, and when you remove the shaping, the success cannot hold. There is a certain kind of deceit in a door that opens too soon. You think you're ready. The stage is set, the applause is loud, and the opportunity is big, but success that arrives without preparation is like handing a crown to someone who hasn't learned the burden of authority. The crown will crush the head it was never meant to rest. Effortless success flatters the ego but fails the soul. It gives you visibility before you have vision, and platform before you have purpose. We live in an age that glamorizes shortcuts. Influence can be bought, followers can be faked, and fame can come overnight with the right algorithm. But no algorithm can forge character. No trending sound can teach endurance. The trap is that everything looks right on the surface. The house stands tall, but the foundation is sand. The applause is loud, but it has no memory. When challenges inevitably come, and they will, what was gained without effort crumbles without warning. Success is meant to be earned, not handed, not because life is cruel, but because the process of earning teaches you how to sustain it. Every delay, every rejection, every failure is a hidden mentor. It teaches humility, patience, and resilience. Without those qualities, success becomes a curse. It inflates your pride, isolates your heart, and blinds you to your own weakness. And when it all begins to collapse, you won't know how to rebuild because you never learned how to build in the first place. The deeper danger is what effortless success does to your sense of identity. When things come easily, you begin to believe you're entitled to them. Gratitude fades, entitlement grows, and when the success inevitably faces resistance, you assume something is wrong with the world, not with your preparation. You blame, retreat, or pretend what you don't do is grow. Because you never had to. There are seasons in life where the hard path is the right one, where closed doors are blessings and long waits are part of divine timing. If you skip these seasons by chasing only what is easy, you rob yourself of the very wisdom you'll need when success finally comes. The trap of effortless success is that it promises joy without cost, but delivers pressure without strength. It seduces you into thinking you're ready when you're not, and it leaves you exposed, gifted but shallow, praised but unstable, visible but hollow. Unconditional tolerance erodes discernment. It is often championed as the highest form of love, a radical acceptance of all things, all choices, all truths. But love divorced from truth becomes sentimentality, and tolerance without boundaries becomes moral confusion. In a world desperate to avoid offense, discernment is often the first casualty. The demand to accept everything sounds virtuous, but it subtly denies the existence of good and evil, right and wrong, wisdom and folly. When all is accepted, nothing can be corrected. And when nothing can be corrected, destruction is inevitable. Tolerance, when rightly applied, is a mercy. It gives space for growth, respects differences, and practices patience. But unconditional tolerance, the kind that requires you to affirm everything, even what is harmful, ceases to be mercy and becomes negligence. You cannot call a wound healing simply because acknowledging it might hurt someone's feelings. You cannot label darkness as light just because the dark is comfortable. When tolerance is weaponized to silence truth, it becomes a tool of deception, not compassion. The erosion begins subtly. At first, it's just about being kind. Don't judge, don't question, just support. Then it moves into affirmation. You must agree. You must celebrate. You must silence any internal unease as prejudice. Discernment, once the noble art of distinguishing between what is righteous and what is ruinous, is mocked as narrow-mindedness. And eventually we arrive at a place where truth is determined by consensus or emotion and not by reality. It no longer matters what is true, only what is comfortable. When discernment is lost, so is accountability. We begin to excuse anything in the name of understanding. We tell ourselves that people are just expressing themselves, living their truth, following their path. But there is no such thing as isolated morality. Every action has consequences that ripple outward. When we refuse to name destruction, we become complicit in it. Silence in the face of error is not love. It is abandonment disguised as acceptance. Worse still, unconditional tolerance dulls the conscience. When you make peace with everything, you lose the capacity to recognize danger. You begin to applaud what should alarm you, to embrace what should repel you. The soul was designed to be alert, to sense the difference between poison and nourishment. But if you feed it confusion long enough, it forgets how to tell the difference. Discernment is not cruelty. It is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is the moral vision to love someone without agreeing with everything they do, to walk in compassion without surrendering to compromise. The world needs more truth-tellers, not more echo chambers. People drowning in lies do not need a pat on the head. They need a hand to pull them up. But unconditional tolerance would rather leave them smiling while they sink, because that feels kinder. In the end, however, such kindness costs souls. And a love that refuses to tell the truth is no love at all. Comfort can sedate your calling. It doesn't fight you like fear or attack you like failure. It lulls you. It's subtle. It creeps in through the cracks of small compromises, late starts, and easy days. Before you realize what's happened, the fire that once pushed you forward has been dimmed by convenience. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time, but deep down the truth is harder. The warmth of comfort has made you forget the urgency of your purpose. Every calling carries weight, and weight requires strength, but strength is not built on couches. The habits that prepare you for your calling are forged in discomfort. Early mornings, difficult decisions, delayed gratification, disciplined thought. Comfort opposes all of these at the cost of depth. It whispers, you've earned rest even when your mission is still incomplete. It offers you distraction when you need focus, relief when you need resistance, and applause when you need correction. We are creatures of habit, and comfort, once tasted, easily becomes addictive. It rewrites your expectations. Instead of asking, what does my purpose demand of me today? You begin to ask, what do I feel like doing? You start to arrange your life around personal peace instead of divine assignment, and slowly calling turns into memory. The very thing that once kept you awake at night becomes something you only think about when it's convenient, when the schedule clears or when inspiration strikes. But callings are not seasonal. They demand everything, and comfort will always argue against that kind of sacrifice. The most dangerous thing about comfort is that it doesn't look dangerous. It looks like self-care, like wisdom, like balance. But when those things are used to justify an action, they become disguises for spiritual laziness. Not all rest is restorative. Some of it is just escape. There is a kind of peace that is counterfeit. It doesn't renew your strength, it just deadens your hunger. You stop praying with fire. You stop dreaming with urgency. You settle. The world is not changed by people who settle. The lives you are meant to touch, the systems you are meant to confront, the healing you are meant to bring, all of it requires movement, risk, and discomfort. Comfort tells you someone else will do it, or that there's still time, but the truth is your calling is time-sensitive. There are moments you are meant to step into, and they don't wait forever. Sedation is not just about sleep, it's about passivity. A sedated heart doesn't rise when it should. It doesn't run when the gate opens. There's nothing inherently wrong with comfort, but when it becomes the goal instead of the gift, it warps your vision. You start avoiding what grows you and chasing what pleases you. And in doing so, you drift. Slowly, subtly, painlessly, but make no mistake, calling does not die with a scream. It dies with a sigh, a shrug, and a soft pillow. Borrowed power replaces faith with ego. It offers control without surrender, results without relationship, and influence without accountability. It mimics the effects of true spiritual authority, but its source is hollow, rooted in performance, manipulation, or spiritual shortcuts. In the beginning, it may look impressive, it may even feel divine. But borrowed power always betrays the one who carries it, because it draws not from the eternal, but from the ego's craving to be seen, heard, and elevated. The human soul was not designed to be its own source. True power comes from alignment with something greater, something holy, ordered, and unshakable. Faith teaches dependence, humility, and obedience. It teaches that real authority comes through submission, and that you must first be ruled before you can rule well. Ego despises waiting. It sees dependence as weakness and submission as an obstacle. So it reaches for power it has not been given. It imitates results, copies language, and manufactures signs, all to appear as though the anointing is present when in reality it has left the room. Borrowed power is often spiritual in appearance. It sounds wise, it knows the right phrases, it may even use scripture, but its fruit is always self-glorification. It seeks applause, not alignment. It thrives on performance, not presence. It demands attention instead of offering transformation. And when results come, it takes the credit rather than pointing to the source. Ego begins to believe that the power is its own, that it can bend reality to its will, that the sacred can be used for personal gain. This is the great danger, that the miraculous can be mimicked, that spiritual language can be hijacked, and that influence can grow even as the soul withers. Borrowed power always leads to burnout, confusion, and disillusionment, because when you're operating on something that's not truly yours, when your strength isn't rooted in grace, when your voice isn't tethered to truth, you will eventually run dry. And when that happens, the ego panics. It doubles down, reaches deeper into performance, and pushes even harder to stay relevant. But the foundation was false from the beginning. Faith, by contrast, trusts that true power is given in time, through intimacy and obedience. It doesn't rush the process. It knows that the wilderness precedes the throne, that obscurity shapes character, and that unseen battles precede public authority. Ego cannot wait for that. It must be elevated now, validated now, affirmed now. So it borrows what it has not earned, and in doing so it forfeits what might have been formed through surrender. The tragedy of borrowed power is not just its collapse, but what it could have become if it had been surrendered. Faith builds slowly but lasts eternally. Ego builds quickly but crumbles spectacularly. And when the collapse comes, it is not just the platform that falls, it is the soul that was never rooted. What was once a calling becomes a cautionary tale, not because the power wasn't available, but because the ego couldn't wait to receive it the right way.